Today, we're going to talk about turning raw interactions, everything from a sales call to user data, into a powerful strategy. We're going to unpack the one core idea that can make a salesperson better, a dev team faster, and an AI you can actually trust. Okay, let's get into it. So it all kicks off with this question. What on earth could possibly link a really great trust-building conversation with a super complex data-crunching algorithm? I mean, they seem like they're from different planets, right? But believe it or not, they are built on the exact same foundation. And that foundation, it's the engine that drives all learning and all improvement. And that engine, the thing that connects these two totally different worlds, is a concept that actually comes from engineering. It's the simple but incredibly powerful idea of the feedback loop. Okay, I know that definition sounds a little academic, but the idea behind it is beautifully simple. A feedback loop is just any system where the result of an action, the output, circles back around to change the next action, the input. That's it. Think of it like a conversation between what's happening right now and what should happen next. It is the absolute core of how anything, and I mean anything, a person, a team, a piece of code, corrects its course. So let's start with the most basic feedback loop there is, a simple human conversation. This is really where we first see how to turn what could be a one-way street into a two-way journey of real discovery. What's so cool about this is the contrast. On the right, you've got your closed-ended questions. They're like a checklist, right? Super efficient for getting facts, but that's about it. But then you look to the left. Open-ended questions do something totally different. When you start with what, why, or how, you're not just asking for a piece of data. You're inviting them to tell you a story. You're turning an interrogation into a conversation. And that is how you find those hidden needs and start to build real trust. And these questions right here just nail it. Notice how none of them are about features or price. They're about vision, growth, becoming a raving fan. I love that. These are the kinds of questions that get to the real why behind what a customer wants. Stuff you would never, ever find with a simple yes or no. This is how you start to connect the dots between a question and an actual sale, because you're linking what you do directly to their biggest goals. Okay, so we've seen how this works in a one-on-one chat. But how do you make that scale? How do you build these powerful loops right into the DNA of an entire team? So now we're going to move from just one conversation to an entire development process. This is called the action design research cycle, and it shows that great products don't just happen by accident. It is a deliberate, structured loop. You figure out the problem, you build and test a solution, and then, and this is the most important part, you stop to reflect and learn. And whatever you learn feeds directly back into how you define the next problem. The big idea here is that product development should be a nonstop cycle of learning and tweaking, always evolving based on what's actually happening in the real world. And here's a super popular way to put that idea into practice, the Scrum framework. The whole system is basically engineered for feedback. You have roles like the product owner, whose entire job is to be the voice of the user. You have events like the sprint review, which are literally built-in moments to show your work and get direct feedback. So frameworks like Scrum, they aren't just for managing tasks. They're for building feedback into the very fabric of how you work. This flowchart just perfectly captures that moment of tension at the heart of any project. At every single stage, you face this choice. Do you loop back and ask again to make sure you've got it right, or do you just carry on with what you've got? Now, carrying on feels faster, for sure, but it comes with this huge risk of having to redo everything later. A healthy feedback loop isn't just a process, it's a culture that actually values hitting pause and asking again over just rushing forward. All right, let's scale this up one more time to the biggest level, AI and automated systems. For a lot of us, AI feels like a black box. You put some data in, an answer comes out, but you have no idea why. We're going to see how feedback loops can crack that black box wide open and turn it into something you can actually understand and trust. The biggest risk with a black box AI is a total feedback failure. If an algorithm is trained on biased data, its answers are going to be biased too. It becomes an echo chamber instead of a genuinely helpful assistant. And from an analytics point of view, that's a massive system failure. It completely destroys user trust and makes the whole tool pretty much useless. But here's the really cool part. We don't have to just accept that output as the final word. We can literally build a feedback loop into the algorithm itself, a system designed to check, analyze, and correct the AI's output in real time before a human ever sees it. This is how you go from a simple model to a truly optimized and trustworthy system. And this slide shows that system in action. It's amazing. On the left, a user types in a really problematic prompt. In the middle column, you see the base AI model's output. It's biased, it's just plain wrong. But now look all the way to the right. An automated feedback loop, in this case something called bias filter, has caught that output. It has analyzed it, spotted the bias, and corrected it into a much more accurate and fair response. It's an automatic quality control loop that builds trust by making sure that AI is reliable. Okay, so we've journeyed from a single conversation to a team process, all the way to an AI algorithm. Let's zoom back out and tie all of these examples into one big, powerful idea for pretty much any business out there. This quote just absolutely nails the shift in thinking we need to have. The old way of thinking was a linear funnel. You move a customer from point A to B to C, and then you're done. This new model is a recursive loop. An action, like someone sharing your content, doesn't end the journey. It reinforces their interest and brings them, and maybe their friends, right back into the loop. So here's the big question for your business. Are you designing a smooth journey, or are you designing a sticky one? The smooth journey on the left, that's all about efficiency. It's a predictable highway. But this sticky journey on the right, that uses feedback to create excitement and exploration. It embraces a little bit of unpredictability to create these moments of discovery. And that is what turns a one-time user into a loyal fan for life. And that really brings us to our final thought for today. Your business, your organization, it's having thousands of conversations every single day. Through sales calls, user reviews, chatbot logs, even just watching where people click. All of that is raw data, a massive stream of outputs just packed with insight. So the real question is, are you building the loops to feed that information back in as input? Are you turning all that noise into a clear signal? Are you really listening?